Well, good morning all. Stephen Demetto is my name. I'm the Commander of Counter-Terrorism Investigations for the Australian Federal Police. I'm here today to inform you of a Queensland joint counter-terrorism investigation which resulted in the arrest of 2 men yesterday. 2 men were charged in what we will allege was their involvement in organising a sophisticated terrorist network based here in southeast Queensland, which involved facilitating Australian foreign fighters to travel from Australia into Syria between 2012 and 2014. This network, we will allege, was facilitated and supported these people to get into Syria to join terrorist organisations and also to engage in hostile activity. The man in Queensland, the 34-year-old, has been charged with numerous offences. One count involves the actually engaging in hostile activity inside Syria itself. We will be alleging that he entered Syria, he fought alongside terrorist organisations, and he did that against the Syrian government. That's an offence that carries 20 years. We also, other charges include, and other counts include the preparations of for foreign incursions into foreign states for the purpose of engaging in hostile activity as well. That's a 10-year offence, and what that really involves is providing services and facilitating other persons in getting into Syria to engage in hostile activity. The 31-year-old man in Melbourne has also been charged with a preparation for foreign incursion offence as well, the 10-year offence. I should say that the man in Melbourne, I can confirm that he's also been designated by the US government in regards to financial sanctions by the Department of Treasury for material support to Al-Qaeda. So the Brisbane man will appear in the Brisbane Magistrates Court today sometime. The Melbourne man appeared yesterday in the Melbourne Magistrate Court for an extradition hearing, and that was not contested. I should say that the decision to arrest these men yesterday were made by the Queensland Joint Counter-Terrorism Team, and when we thought we had enough evidence to charge these individuals. I should be clear that the decision to act was not made in connection to any imminent threat to the community in either Queensland or Victoria. A number of search warrants were also executed, one in Chambers Flat here in Queensland and one in Doncaster East in Victoria. We seized $80,000 in cash, we seized a number of gemstones of high value, and we also seized various electronic devices which we will examine over the next period. I want to make clear, though, that us and our partners take all extremist groups seriously. We target the criminality regardless of the background of the perpetrators. We target criminals and criminal activity. We do not target ideology, and we do not target the background of individuals. Hopefully what this action also shows is that we are continuing to discourage Australians to go overseas and to fight in overseas conflicts. We will hold people to account for their actions, and that doesn't matter how long ago those actions occurred, especially when those actions involve supporting terrorism and supporting terrorist organisations. The national terrorism threat level remains probable. We are all well aware there are still those in the community who seek to do us harm. This investigation shows, yet again, the effectiveness and dedication of the Queensland Joint Counter-Terrorism Team, and I'd also like to thank our partners in Victoria, in the Victorian Joint Counter-Terrorism Team, for their assistance down in Melbourne. We will thoroughly investigate criminal behaviour and disrupt to ensure the safety of the community in Queensland and Australia. Also, we do not do this alone. It is important the community and police work together to ensure a safe environment for everybody involved. I will now pass on to Acting Detective Superintendent Hutchings from the Queensland Police for a few words. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Heath Hutchings. I am the Detective Acting Superintendent of the Counter-Terrorism Investigation Group for the Queensland Police Service. The arrests yesterday reinforced the value and investment that the Queensland Police Service and our partners have within the Joint Counter-Terrorism team in relation to keeping our community safe. The investigation was protracted in nature and challenging and complex, and I'd like to acknowledge all of our people, both within this state and interstate, for the assistance, their dedication and their commitment to overcome the barriers and the challenges which resulted in their arrest. I'd also like to reinforce that these are historic offences and there are no current threats to the community of Queensland. So I'd like to pass back to the Commander, and we'll take any questions from the floor.
You say that it cultivated a network in South East Queensland. How many other people are in this network?
Look, we believe the investigation is ongoing, but we believe there could be up to 7 individuals.
Who are still in the community?
No, well, some of them are overseas, and they were part of that facilitation into Syria. But I should stress the investigation is ongoing. And I should also stress that we cannot rule out there won't be further arrests down the track.
The Brisbane man, when was he alleged to have gone and fought in Syria?
2014.
So when, as you say, the historic charges, when was the last, I suppose, active element of what they were doing?
So our allegations refer to a period of between 2012 and 2014. And as you can appreciate, these are difficult and complex investigations, especially when a lot of the evidence is overseas. And so there's just great commitment by the Queensland Joint Counter-Terrorism team to bring all that information together and to lead to what we believe now there is sufficient information and sufficient evidence to lay the charges.
And just to be 100% clear, there's nothing relating to the past 7 years from 2014 to 2021?
There's no information. The period is between 2012 and 2014, that's correct.
And who was it that they were either facilitating the fighting for or that they had fought for in Syria?
We will allege at the time the organisation was Jabhat al-Nusra. That's had a few name changes since then, but in simple terms, I suppose it's the Al-Qaeda in Syria.
So is this related to Zakaria back in 2013?
Ahmed Zakaria, yes. Well, we will allege that he was one of those individuals that was facilitated in getting into Syria as part of this network.
How many others were set up?
Again, the investigation is ongoing. As I said before, in regards to this network and facilitating over there, it could be up to 7, but we're still ongoing in that. So
Up to 7 fighters sent?
That's correct.
And how many people are thought to be still in the community?
Well, the investigation is ongoing, and like I said, we cannot rule out there won't be further arrests.
You speak of the complex nature of it. Can you give us a bit of more of an understanding as to the complexities of the investigation?
Well, the complexity goes to the extent that a lot of the activity occurred overseas as well. So that's one complexity. The time and it occurred and the time that we are now, the distance, time in between is a complexity. And also you've got to show the necessary fault element, of course, and the intent of the individuals. We will allege that these people knew what they were doing was against Australian law.
When were you tipped off about this and what involvement have foreign agencies had?
Tip-off's probably the wrong word, but we did come across new information last year. And with that new information and then going back through historical information, we were able to put together what we believe is enough evidence to charge these individuals. We work closely with all our foreign partners in regard to this.
How concerning is it that Australians are on the radars of international agencies?
I'm not sure if that's a concern, but if people are going to go and fight for terrorist organisations overseas, we need to work with our partners and really take action and hold people to account for that.
Are they still involved in any way or part of any terrorist networks currently, or have they broken ties and moved on with their lives?
Well, I can't comment on that because the investigation is continuing. I can say that one of the people is subject to sanctions by the US government, which is current. So that came about in October 2020. But there is no imminent threat here in Australia, in either Queensland or Victoria or anywhere in Australia, that resulted in our action yesterday.
Which of the 2 people are under sanctions?
The man in Victoria.
And can you confirm the names that are being reported in the media at the moment? Are they correct?
Well, if you want to say the names to me.
So Mr. Talib, Mr. Krasi, Gabriel Krasi.
That is correct.
Can you give us a bit more detail on the sanctions the Melbourne man
Look, it's really a question for the US government, I suppose. All I can say that they're related to the Department of Treasury. It relates to material support of Al-Qaeda, but I really can't offer any more information than that.
When do you expect Mr Talib will be extradited?
That's still being determined down in Victoria, but we expect him to be here early next week.
So can I just check on the raids? Where were the gems found? Was that down in Melbourne?
That's correct.
Okay. And what sort of monetary value are we talking?
Look, we're not sure at this stage. The investigation's continuing.
And the cash, was that in Brisbane?
The cash was in Brisbane, yes.
On another issue, we've had reports in the ABC and 9 newspapers this morning that a neo-Nazi paramilitary organisation called the Base has been recruiting Australians, and at least 2 Queenslanders applied to join. Have the AFP been investigating the Base's activities here?
Look, I can't comment on that. Any more questions? Thank you for your time. Thank you.